Joe Rogan's back in the news, and if he's back in the news, it's for a controversial issue. And this time around, it's not for anything that Joe specifically said. It's for a guest that he had on his show. And well, I didn't hear anything about this because Joe Rogan, when he's exclusively on Spotify, I don't know when his multi-platform part of the deal, his new deal with Spotify, is supposed to take effect. But the sooner the better, because then we could start to get some clarification and then maybe some additional coverage, and maybe I'll have an opportunity to actually watch his show again. But when he continues to bring on people like this that everybody was fawning over, oh my god, this guy, he's a prison reform activist, Sheldon Johnson, a man who has a very harrowing tale behind him. Okay, he was just out after serving a 25-year jail sentence. Okay, and he apparently turned his life around, right? As Keith Woods points out, last month, Joe Rogan had prison reform activist Sheldon Johnson on to discuss the unfairness of the U.S. justice system. Johnson was out after serving a 25-year jail sentence. He explained how unfair it was. He was sent to prison for as long as he was, and Joe Rogan agreed that Johnson's story reflects a huge problem of racism in the justice system. Yeah, see, this is why I don't quite think that Rogan's that same, intellectual that a lot of people like to paint him as. He's shaped like whatever container, the liquid that pours into him requires him to be. He's a good interviewer, but when it comes to his positions, his ideas on things, they're about as valuable as this guy, okay? Because, racism in the justice system, huh? There's a problem in the justice system, but it has nothing to do with race. If two individuals commit the exact same crime, which party ends up getting a 66% lighter sentence than the other? Which party is 50% more likely to get parole than the other one? Oh yeah, there's a two-tier justice system. It just has nothing to do with color of the skin. It's about the allocation of the skin in certain areas. If you know, you know, and if you don't, well, I've done enough videos on that subject for you to fill in the gaps. Today, Johnson was arrested after police found a severed head and limbless torso in his apartment. What? Was he the guy who bid on Ted Williams' head? Is that what he had? Is he running an amateur mortuary out of his place? The victim's neighbors reported hearing, "Please don't, I have a family," before hearing 2 gunshots. Oh Lord! The police found the victim decapitated head in Johnson's freezer and the limbless torso in a blue bin in his apartment. Maybe the problem here isn't systemic racism. No, I really don't think so. But let's get a little bit more context on this, because maybe it's just everybody else who's the problem. Okay, maybe he was set up, right? Ex-con turned NYC criminal justice activist busted after head of prison rival. Oh, there's a connection between the deceased and the suspect. All right. Found in the freezer of an apartment. He was seen leaving in blonde wig. I'm sorry, what? Criminal justice activist is facing murder charges after cops found a dismembered body inside a Bronx apartment, with the accused killer caught on surveillance video disguised in a blonde wig at the scene of the crime, according to a witness and police. Normally, the purpose of a disguise is to, get you to blend into the scenery, but how does a tall black guy wearing a blonde wig blend you into anything? I got questions. Sheldon Johnson, 48-year-old staffer of the public law firm Queens Defenders, was led out of the 44th Precinct Station House in handcuffs Thursday after police made the grisly discovery: a human torso in a blue bin and a head stashed in a freezer. The 6th floor apartment, police has said. He was held without bail at his arraignment Thursday night. See, that's racism. If he was a white guy with a severed head in his apartment, he would have got out on bail, obviously. Johnson, an ex-con who turned his life around. Sure he did. And became a well-known victim's advocate. Was featured on Joe Rogan's podcast and rubbed elbows with VIPs like Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg. Oh, you love to see it. Sources said the victim in this week's slaying, identified as 44-year-old Colin Small. Hopefully he was small, or he just had a very big deep freeze. May have had a beef with Johnson. Both were doing time in Sing Sing prison in Westchester County. Oof, he was in Sing Sing? Yeah, that's tough, man. Neighbors told cops the victims had heard desperately pleading with the killer shortly before 2 shots rang out in the apartment near Ogden Ave and West 162nd Street shortly after 8 p.m. on Tuesday, sources and neighbors said. "Please don't," the doomed man was heard saying. "I have a family." Investigators were called to the building for a wellness check after the shots were heard, and neighbors reported seeing a stranger coming and going from the apartment with with cleaning supplies, the building superintendent said. And it's like, no, he didn't just see him. Apparently had the video evidence as well. Building surveillance video footage obtained by the Post shows Johnson stepping off the 6th floor elevator on Tuesday, looking around cautiously before he slowly walks into the apartment and goes inside. He's seen wearing a dark coat over a yellow hoodie and lugging a mop and a bag that sources said was full of cleaning supplies. I said, listen, I want to do a welfare check on a tenant because the person who is coming in and out is not the tenant. The super, oh really, who asked not to be identified, told the Post. He said Johnson carried with him a blue bin to the apartment at about 2 a.m. Okay, and never brought it back out. Yeah, and that's apparently where some body parts were found. Is that what we're... Yo, Lord have mercy. Like, what? Okay, just completely and totally covered up, Somebody who's fitting the same physical stature as the person, laboriously dragging in cleaning equipment. Now just all of a sudden has a blonde wig. Yeah, okay, cool. He brought in the bin, I told him. Why is he bringing in a bin at 2 o'clock in the morning? Okay, he's bringing in the bin so late, the super said. We tried to see if he took out the bin. He never took out the bin. I told him, look for a bin. And sure enough, it was there. The super also saw the suspect leaving in the victim's blue Audi and returning in an Uber wearing a blonde wig. Okay, so he's a criminal justice reform advocate who has an Audi. Now, is not out of the realm of possibility. Not out of the realm of possibility that he procured that through legitimate means. But I'm just saying, if you're rubbing shoulders with Alvin Bragg, if you're getting a spot on Rogan, and you're supposed to be a man of the people, yeah, it never fails. Those people that decide to cry racism always have more than one thing to hide. Big shock on that one. There's Colin Small, makes sense. He is coming in. He is dressed differently, changing his character. I said, that's not normal. He's hiding something. He said police made an initial check of the apartment, but left without busting the suspect. Well, yeah, of course. Oh, man, you can't be serious. Okay. The guy stood there, the super said. Then I took him out and everything, and I looked in the apartment, didn't find anything. They apologized and said somebody called, and they have to come. He said Johnson then asked to speak with him. Okay. Now it's getting weirder. Yo, that's a big cop right there. That's a good cop right there. Those are the type of cops that I want. Probably just about 50 pounds lighter. I went back into the house and called the neighbor and said the guy's looking for me and he wants to talk to me. I said, I'm going to go to him. I'm going to ask him what he wants, then tell the police what he tells me. That was the plan. But before the meeting took place, the police were back and took Johnson in for questioning. If I'd gone, you never know what he was going to do. He's going to frame me, shoot me, or offer me something to get rid of the cameras or something. Tenant Jose Marquez told the Post he saw Johnson walking a small dog days before the murder. It feels like the devil just crawled through here last night, Marquez said. Okay, very, informative information there, Marquez. The neighbor described him as quiet and a loner. Well, yeah, of course, you're never going to say, great guy, that super handy with a butcher knife. It's just, hey, man, never saw this coming. Sometimes we get fooled with appearance. Well-dressed, looks clean. Nice glasses, by the way. I had a pair that looked like that, except for mine were blue and not smeared with blood. You are assuming this guy has a professional career. Went to work, came back, walked the dog, and continued with his personal life. Johnson started working as a client advocate in the public defender's office in Queens sometime after being released from prison in 2019, after serving 20 years for a series of armed robberies in 1999. So he started off with armed robberies, and now he's continuing on with that legacy of being armed. It's just at the expense of other people. And in an interview on the Rogan Experience podcast, Johnson, who claimed he used to be the member of the Bloods gang. Oh, yeah, told host Josh Dubin he was arrested and sentenced to a maximum of 50 years for using a gun to rob several men who owed him money for drugs. But yes, after spending some time in and out of solitary confinement, the convicted felon said he decided to turn his life around and got his GED while in prison. Now, to be completely honest, I do agree with the people that say that, justice reform, needs to be brought around. Okay, there's some crimes don't require prison sentences, or at least that stiff of penalties, and I'm kind of on the side of that, okay? And if I was in charge of things, oh boy, yeah, you better believe that the justice system would be undergoing quite a reform. It's just the people that Johnson associates with, they'd be the one in prison. And the sentences, oh, there wouldn't be any repeat offenders if I was the ultimate emperor of Earth, okay? There would be no need for additional perp walks, because the way that you deal with people like this, well, we can't necessarily say that on YouTube to keep it all upright and honest, but imagine that, man. The guys who want to preach that it's everybody else's fault except for me. I was just a helpless, I was a good boy who didn't do nothing. I was just out there doing armed robberies. I never should have been behind bars for 20 years. Well, if you would have been behind bars for 25 years, might have actually been somebody still alive today. But say Lovey probably also did. Maybe you'll get off for good behavior this time around, because, I don't know, maybe depending on the guy that you picked up a beef with in jail, given the fact that you were both out on the street, maybe turned your life around so much that you ended up becoming a garbage man, taking out the trash one last time on your way back into jail. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.